you said you're also fascinated with eugenics, correct?
Yes, of course.
Now,
that's everything we're seeing now.
Yeah, didn't eugenics come from Sweden initially? Isn't that where the Nazis adopted their eugenics philosophies from?
I don't know if it was necessarily Sweden. It was just, I mean, whatever you want to call it, the black nobility, the Illuminati, these elite bloodlines. That's where it really came from, because that's where they were starting to. They essentially had the mindset of like, nobody else is good as us. That's why they, intermarrying within these bloodlines, and everyone else was, as with the unwashed goy, like Jewish people call it. It's like we're all the fucking, the assholes of the world. But I don't think it necessarily started in Sweden. I don't know exactly where it started, but again, it came from these elite bloodlines that were making sure that we're up here, they're up here rather, and we're down here, and never the twain shall they meet. But then that gets into like what we're seeing today, our commercial food industry. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. We've been under attack, chemical and biological attack by eugenicists for a long time. Food, air, water, soil is tainted. We get sick, and then we go into the pharmaceutical industry, which keeps us sick. And this is all eugenics operation, in my humble opinion.
I'm no eugenics expert, but as far as I've seen, Sweden in the early 1900s, perhaps maybe late 1800s, but I think it's early 1900s. They were all about. They got their people to focus on the collective, like the greater good. And
yes,
when you got everybody on the greater good, you can get everybody to agree with some crazy shit. Like they basically said and had their people believe that if your face isn't perfectly symmetric, that means there's a defect in your body and in your psyche, and so they would measure your face and make sure that your eyes were in a certain spot, your nose was in a certain spot, your cheekbones. So basically, good-looking people were. If you have a pretty face, that means you have a symmetric face. And
right.
So if you had a big nose or your eyes were too close together, they would sterilize you because they would they got everyone to believe that if your face was ugly, then there's something wrong with you, and you shouldn't procreate for the greater good, right?
Yes,
for the collective. So what ends up happening is, if you don't have a perfect, pretty face, you are sterilized. That's what they did. Yeah. So that's why, I don't know if you've ever been to Stockholm. You ever been to Sweden?
I haven't.
Holy shit, dude.
We're all suffering from mass Stockholm syndrome, though, yeah.
Dude, we're talking, Sweden has the best looking people.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
And it's because of eugenics. It's because of eugenics. They only allowed, I don't know for how long that lasted. I don't know if it was like 20, 30 years, but they did it. And when you go to Stockholm, you see the results. Even the guys,
this goes back to
the guys have they're like, dude, you go to McDonald's and the girls working at McDonald's, they're like models. Like, whoa! I remember going there the first time thinking, holy shit!
Even the threes there are fucking like 12s here.
It's insane.
But this goes back to almost like, granted it was fictionalized, but it's like, what was it, 300, where they were like, if you had any malformity, you were thrown off the fucking cliff. Like you had to be Spartan, pure fucking blood type shit. I mean, granted, again, that was fictionalized, but this is the same kind of thing they're depicting, is trying to control a bloodline, essentially.
Yeah. And apparently, I'm no Nazi expert, but I think the Nazis, they basically took what the Swedish people or the Swedish government did, and they implemented it in their own way. They were trying to do
without a doubt with the Kaiser Wilhelm Foundation, like it's without a shadow of a doubt. With your
and then
right,
and then when you convince your people to go along with that shit, you basically got them under control. Because they're good looking people, but I mean, I think that's why that maybe, I don't know, I'm just guessing. It is kind of weird that Sweden was one of the only countries that didn't go along with the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates, right? I think I think, and like Japan didn't either. And I think it's probably because they were like, dude, you guys are trying to get your people under control. We got that shit under control 100 years ago. You know what I mean? We already got these guys.
Yeah.
We already got these guys. They're probably super vaccinated in Sweden. I don't know. I could be wrong, but if it is kind of crazy that the country that implemented eugenics in at such a level like that, probably more than, I'm no expert, but I would guess someone said, what country utilized and implemented eugenics the most? I would say Sweden. I would just say Sweden.
Well, I mean, Germany with, whatever
but that was
you
after,
want to.
and they took what Sweden did, and then there was after too. So
yeah. You're right.
I would say, man, is there did Sweden not go along with the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates because they already got their people under control? They're like, dude, we don't need to do all this shit. You guys are doing all this shit to lockstep everybody to a point where you have them all under control. And in Sweden, they already have them under control. They're like, dude, you guys are way behind. That's the way I looked at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, them killing people because they didn't look good enough had to do necessarily with their reaction to the supposed, COVID.
If you could sterilize, if they were okay with being sterilized, if they were ugly, they probably already had like a massive vaccine program going on anyways. You know what I mean? If they,
for whatever reason,
if they accepted that.